Hey guys, welcome to the 5th part of What If Tanjiro Could Use Hamon. Last time we left off after the conclusion of the Swordsmith Village arc and the Demon Slayer's victory over Upper Moons 4 and 5. With everyone caught up, let's begin. Following the fight against Upper Moons 4 and 5, plans to move the Swordsmith Village were set into action right away, and Tanjiro chats with Goto, the Kikuchi at Butterfly Mansion. After waking up from resting for a whole week after the fight, Tanjiro slips up and tells Goto that Tameo is looking into why and how Nezuko has conquered the sun. However, he chokes on his food, distracting Goto from the topic, realizing he messed up. Elsewhere, Zenitsu arrives at the Butterfly Mansion and finds out that Nezuko can now walk in the sun and speak, begging for her to marry him. However, she mistakes his name for Inosuke. Due to Inosuke making it his mission to make her remember his name, annoying Zenitsu, who claims he is going to spit roast the damn pig alive. That day, an emergency pillar meeting was held at the Ubuyashiki estate, with all the Hashira present. Main Ubuyashiki is there in her husband's stead, as his illness has rendered him unable to attend. They discuss Nezuko and the strange marks that appeared on Mitsuri and Muagio that day, and Main explains what they are, and how the information had become unclear. However, one thing that was passed on indefinitely was that whoever had the mark would start spreading it to others who fit the qualifications. The first one among this generation to have it was Tanjiro, but when they asked him how it felt when he got it, he had a hard time putting how it felt into words. Main then asks Mitsuri and Muagio if they can help. Mitsuri tries, but only embarrasses herself when all she can come up with is vague descriptions that are mostly made up of noises about how it felt. But Muagio does have an idea of what qualifications were fulfilled to make the mark appear. Muagio then explains that he was consumed by his anger and lost complete control of his emotions. He says that he thinks that his heart rate exceeded 200 beats per minute and his body temperature went over 39 degrees Celsius. Muagio thinks that those who do not have the mark appear, even though they do have the qualifications, do not get the mark because they will die, but those whose bodies can withstand these extreme circumstances will have a mark appear and enhance their ability to fight. It was then established that they would have mark training and that anyone who had gotten the mark would have to participate. Main then leaves and the pillars are about to have a discussion about the training before Tomioka stands up, claiming that there is no need or reason that he has to stay any longer. The other pillars are confused as to why he doesn't think he needs to be there, but his only explanation is that he is not like them. Hearing this, Sanemi lashes out and asks what Tomioka means, misinterpreting his words as Tomioka thinking that he is better than everyone else, even though what the man actually meant was the exact opposite. A fight breaks out because Tomioka doesn't explain himself or what he means, but it is soon resolved, as the stone pillar says that they should all just sit down and discuss. At the same time, Higanzuka arrives at the Butterfly Mansion to deliver Tanjiro his sword, passive-aggressively praising the high-quality steel and the previous swordsmith who originally made it. And then switching to an angry monologue on how Tanjiro has put irremovable damage on the blade. He then leaves after Tanjiro promises to bring him Mitarashi dumplings until the day he dies. An annoyed Genya then complains about how noisy Tanjiro and his guests were, with Tanjiro promising that that was the last of it. But he doesn't get to finish because Inosuke enters the room by breaking through the window of their room from the outside, with news about a super hard training session they are going to have. This training is special as Hashira generally would only train their successors and were constantly busy doing other things such as protecting their regions, gathering information on demons, and improving their swordsmanship. However, they will be training all demon slayers in this training. This training is only made possible due to the demons dwindling in activity, ever since Nezuko conquering the sun. However, before Tanjiro could participate, he was given a special mission from the master, that being to persuade Tomioka to join in with the training. Finally, after 5 days of pestering Tomioka, inquiring as to why he isn't participating, Tomioka finally gave in, explaining his past and how he never passed final selection and had to be saved by Sabito, and how if Sabito was alive, he would have been a far better Hashira and would have able to unlock the mark, whereas he himself could not. Understanding Tomioka's feelings, Tanjiro would remember Rengoku and his sacrifice, and how he thought of how if he had died instead, maybe he would have been able to kill Muzan. However, he remembered Rengoku's last words to him, and how he has to live up to his expectations. Tanjiro considers on what to say to Tomioka to make him realize that, eventually saying isn't whatever Sabito entrusted to you keeping you together. Making Tomioka remember a memory from when he and Sabito were training and how Sabito told him to never ever say that he'd be better off dying, as it would be an insult to his sister who died protecting him. Remembering this, Tomioka would apologize to Tanjiro for delaying the training, telling him he will also participate. However, before Tanjiro could register what Tomioka had just said, Tanjiro offers to have a cold sober eating contest with him to make him feel better. Elsewhere, Ubuyashiki's crow would make contact with Tameo, asking her to help the Demon Slayer Corps fight against Muzan. One day later, Tanjiro would begin his training, finding it far easier than canon due to having Hamon to recover him. However, he wasn't permitted to use Hamon during the training so he could focus on increasing his breathing techniques, so the training goes mostly the same as usual. During his final training with the rock Hashira Imjima-sama, Tanjiro considers using Hamon to push the giant rock, however he decides against it, eventually getting a hang of the repetitive actions. Managing to activate his mark at will, pushing the boulder. With his training over, Tanjiro is asked by the master to teach a few demon slayers Hamon, recognizing its effectiveness against demons and capability to slay demons with a single wound, making it a vital tool for the fight against Muzan. Due to it being a family technique, Tanjiro considers declining. However, he quickly accepts the order, believing that his family would rather have more people be protected than keeping the technique a secret. He then tells the master that he isn't sure if he is going to be a good teacher, however he will try his best, leaving with the master's permission. During these lessons, Tanjiro would teach Demon Slayer with ranks ranging from Mitsunoto all the way to Kino, and sometimes even a few of the Hashira would join in except Abe Nigoro and Sanemi Shinazugawa, who despise him. Aoi also joined in with the training, wanting to use Hamon's healing properties to heal patients more effectively and rapidly. Tanjiro would start by explaining what Hamon is and how through self-controlled respiration, a trained person can produce an energy manifesting as ripples throughout their body, and that is identical to the energy of the sun, in polar opposition to the energy exerted by demons. Confused, Inosuke yells for Kentaro to explain it in normal terms. Tanjiro then decides to demonstrate it, stepping in a pool of water, controlling his breathing through Hamon manifesting itself as electricity like sparks around his body. He then tells them to look at the water, as ripples begin to appear on the water around him, telling them that it is Sendo, ripple energy created through Hamon. Tanjiro then walks over to a rock with a frog on it, punching the frog, splitting the rock below it, leaving the frog unharmed. Confused as to how Tanjiro did that, Zenitsu asks him how he did it, with Tanjiro explaining that Hamon has the ability to pass through living organisms, leaving them unharmed if wanted, allowing him to split his true target, the rock. He then touches a branch, passing his Hamon through it, making it bloom, to demonstrate another of its uses. Annoyed, one of the slayers yell that flowers are not capable of killing demons, especially not the Demon King Muzan, so stop wasting our time. Tanjiro then laughs, and explains that his family had never used it for fighting and only as spiritual training, before him, however it does have combat abilities. Asking for a volunteer to demonstrate its abilities on. He then tells the volunteer to attempt to punch him, dodging the punch, then countering with a Hamon zoom punch, punching the slayer in the face to the floor. Those watching are confused as to how he reached him at that distance. However, Tanjiro explains that he used a ripple breathing technique to dislocate and stretch the joints in his arm and shoulder to extend the arm and give it greater reach, while also using the same ripple to dull the pain caused by the move. He then demonstrates another use of Hamon, placing his hand on the slayer's head, imbuing some of his Hamon into the slayer, allowing him to hypnotize the slayer, giving him a simple command to split a rock with his fist, and due to the Hamon increasing his strength, he is capable of it, with Tanjiro releasing him from his control shortly after. As a final demonstration, Tanjiro picks up a few leaves, infusing Hamon into them to make them rigid, firing them at a rapid velocity, sticking into a rock. He then uses life magnetism overdrive to attract all the leaves in the immediate area, magnetizing them together to form a shield by infusing Hamon into them. Now that he has demonstrated a few uses of Hamon, Tanjiro starts to teach them how to utilize their own Hamon. To do this, Tanjiro uses forced ripple breathing on everyone present, making them subconsciously use their Hamon, making it easier for them to learn how to do it themselves. And covering their hands in oil, as oil is a great conductor of Hamon, so would help them release their Hamon. Over the next few days, a few of the slayers were capable of the basics of Hamon, so Tanjiro moved on to step 2, physical exercise, like prolonged swimming, or forcing them to stay balanced on the tip of the finger, to enhance users to be in tune with their body and mind together as one, and the naturally typical benefits of working out being as mutually seen as further drawing out the flow of energy the sun gives to all life on Earth. Once they were capable of releasing their Hamon without much effort, Tanjiro had them spar with each other without spilling any water from their glasses of water, with a few of them getting a hang of this by the end of the training. Now that a few of them could use Hamon, Tanjiro instructed them to conduct Hamon through their swords and combine it with their breathing techniques. Sadly, the only people who made it to this phase were a few random slayers, Kaneo and Aoi, with Inosuke struggling due to the rhythmic breathing required for Hamon being polar opposite of his more wild beast breathing, and Zenitsu just being incapable of learning breathing techniques rapidly. Kaneo was actually quite a natural at Hamon, quickly picking it up, considering she had watched him training with it before and was mesmerized by its beauty and having already been the basics before. Having asked to learn a bit while watching Tanjiro train and how Hamon perfectly merged with her flower breathing, with Tanjiro noting that Hamon works best with sun breathing, flower breathing, water breathing, and flame breathing. During this time, Tanjiro would also have attempted to heal the Master Ubuyashiki with the help of Aoi using their Hamon, however, due to it being a curse, they are only able to revert the disease to its position a few months ago, allowing the master to somewhat walk once again, allowing him to make a final visit to his fallen swordsmen's graves. A few days later, Ubuyashiki is visited by a mysterious man as predicted, asking his wife for a description of Muzan due to being unable to see because of his illness. Muzan, on the other hand, mocked him, as he who they have been chasing showed no sign of aging, while Kagaya, on the other hand, is already smelling like a corpse. Muzan then ridiculed him as even with all their efforts and even with the thousands of people killed by Muzan, he has never been punished. Kagaya however questions him about his dreams, which made Muzan uncomfortable. Muzan then scans the area, noticing that there are only 4 humans present in the mansion. Muzan then states that his dream is to be indestructible and it will come true once he gets his hand on Nezuko. It was then Kagaya's turn to ridicule Muzan in his dream, stating that it won't come true and that human thoughts are indestructible. He recalls how the demon's hunters still exist for 1,000 of years and how Muzan have incurred their wrath, further noting that even if he dies, the hunters will not feel pain as they don't need him that much. The connection to human thought is something demons cannot understand, because they will cease to exist once Muzan dies. Upon hearing this, Muzan became enraged and appeared in front of Kagaya demanding him to shut up, in which Kagaya thanked him. Meanwhile, an emergency summon to all the Hashiras and demon hunters is called because of the attack on the Ubuyashiki estate. Sanemi hurries through the forest, towards the Ubuyashiki estate. As he catches sight of the mansion, a massive explosion destroys the mountainside, to Sanemi's sheer horror. The explosion is noticed by the rest of the Hashira, horrifying them all. Tanjiro realizes the scent of blood and burning flesh is in the air. Muzan, caught directly in the explosion, tries to regenerate and curses Kagaya. In his final moments, Kagaya had the smile of a Buddha before killing himself, alongside his wife and 2 daughters. The demon lord never believed he was capable of such commitment towards killing him and underestimated him, adding he knew Kagaya had planned something but nothing at this scale. He notices Kagaya even added spikes to the explosives to delay his regeneration further. Muzan senses that Kagaya has something else planned, knowing people and most likely Hashiras must be close by. He thinks back to the Oyakata's final moments. He had hid all his anger and bloodlust without Muzan ever notices anything, something he begrudgingly commends him for. As Muzan tries to put his mind towards regenerating quicker, flesh seeds appear around him. Without warning, they burst into giant black bramble branches. He realizes they must be a blood demon art but is immobilized. The spikes don't harm him however, and Muzan believes he can simply absorb them to escape. Out of nowhere, Tameo appears and stabs her hand through Muzan's stomach. Muzan is angered at her sudden appearance and asks her reason. Tameo mentions the flesh seeds belong to the man in Azakusa he turned into a demon. He realizes she must have hidden herself with another blood demon art, using Yushio's talismans. She tells Muzan the drug in her fist absorbed by him turns demons back into humans. Muzan claims it's impossible but she states it became possible with someone's help. Muzan curses her stubbornness and makes the claim that her hatred of him is unjust. He reminds her that she alone was responsible for the deaths of her family. She tearfully responds all she wanted was to survive her disease and see her children grow up. The demon lord mentions she had eaten other people after that and states she had fun doing so, grabbing her head viciously. Tameo doesn't deny that fact and states that in order to atone for those deaths, she and Muzan will die together. Tameo calls out to Chiyomiya, the first to arrive at the scene. With a single swing of his spiked flail, he decapitates Muzan. As Kagaya had predicted, Muzan regenerates his head completely, unsurprising to Gyomir. He recalls his late leader's words that sunlight is the only way to kill the demon lord, and he resolves to keep him restrained till dawn. Muzan attempts to ensnare the Hashira with blood demon art, black blood, brambles, but the attack is deflected by Gyomir's stone breathing, third form, stone skin. Sainemi arrives and angrily asks what has become of Kagaya. The rest of the Hashira arrives, asking themselves about their leader's state. Gyomir announces they are now facing Muzan himself, to the shock of all the Hashira, as none of them have ever directly encountered him. Tanjiro, the only one present who has personally faced him, angrily calls out to him. All the remaining Hashira use their respective breathing styles in order to cut Muzan down, Muagio using the mist breathing, fourth form. Shifting flow / Shinobu using her insect breathing, butterfly dance, Caprice, Abanai using the serpent breathing, first form, winding serpent / Maitsuri with her love breathing, fifth form. Swaying love, wild claw, Juyu with the water breathing, third form, flowing dance, Sainemi with the wind breathing, seventh form, gale, sudden gusts, and Tanjiro with the Hinakami Kagura. Sunflower thrust. As they converge on the demon, Muzan laughs to himself as giant doors suddenly appear and slide open under the demon slayers, causing all of them to plummet into the Infinity Castle. Muzan mocks them for believing they had him cornered and declares he will kill them all tonight. Tanjiro responds back that the only one to die will be Muzan, and he promises to kill him. Muzan answers his challenge, then do it if you can. Tanjiro Kamadu. Okay guys, this is the end of the 5th part of What If Tanjiro Had Hamon. Sorry it is so short, as I wanted to make the Infinity Castle arc and Sunlight Countdown arcs in a separate part. If you enjoyed, please consider dropping a comment, liking the video, and subscribing to the channel with the notification bell enabled to be notified whenever I upload.